Hi everyone, I am Yamini, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, SNS College of Technology. Welcome to the session on Unit 3, Object and Class in Java. Part of this course, Object-Oriented Programming using Java. In this video, we will explore one of the most fundamental concepts in object-oriented programming, class and object. These form the backbone of Java programming and are essential for building structure and a reusable software system. Object-oriented programming focus on modeling real-world entity in software. Instead of writing a program as a set of instructions alone, OOPS allows us to design a program using object that represents a real-world thing such as students, device, car or bank account. By the end of this session, you will understand what a class is, what an object is, how they are related, and how we create object in Java. We will also look at a simple Java program and a simple puzzle to help reinforce your understanding. So let us begin by understand the basic idea behind object and class. Next one, object and then class. That is a basic of object and classes. In object-oriented programming, a class acts as a blueprint or template for creating an object. You can think of a class like a design plan of a house. The blueprint defines how many rooms and house will have, where the door are placed and how the structure is built. However, the blueprint itself is not a house. It only describes how house should be constructed. Similarly, in Java, a class defines properties and behavior that objects created from the class will have. For example, if we create a class as called student, the class makes certain attributes like student ID, name and department. It may also contain methods such as display informations or calculate grades. Once the class is defined, we can create many objects from the class. Each object will have its own data but will follow the structure defined by the class. This approach helps program organize code better, reuse component and model real world problem more efficiently. Next one, class attribute. In a class attribute, now let us look at a class attribute. Class attributes are a variable declared inside a class but outside any methods. These variable represents the properties or character of the object created from that class. For example, in a student class, attribute might include student ID, student name, department, mark. These attributes store the information related to each object. In Java, the syntax of the class looks like this. A class is declared using the keyword class followed by the class name. Inside the class body, we define a variable and methods. The variable defined inside the class are known as instead of variables or attributes. And each object created from the class will have its own copy of this variable. This is how we represent the data associated with real world entity. Next one, object concept. In object concept, next let us understand what an object is. An object is a fundamental concept in object-oriented programming. It represents the real-world entity. In simple terms, the object is an instance of class. If a class is the blueprint but the object is the actual product created using that blueprint. For example, if we have a class called student, then individual students like Alice, John or Ravi can be considered object of that class. Each object will have its own variable or attributes. One student may have ID 101 and name Alice, while another student may have ID 102 and name John. In Java, objects are created using a new keyword which allows memory for the object, and in initializing it, object allows us to interact with the data and behavior defined in a class. Next one, object creation syntax. In object creation syntax, now let us look at a syntax for creating an object in Java. To create an object, we use the following structure. First, we write a class name followed by the object reference name. Then we use the new keyword to create the object. For example, class name object name equals new class name. Here the object name acts as a reference that points to the object created in memory. Once the object is created, we can access the attribute and methods of the class using that object. This is how Java program create and manipulate real-world entity within a software application. A simple Java program example. Let us now look at a simple Java program to understand this better. In this example, we create a class called student. Inside the class, we declare a two attribute ID and name. Next, we create another class called text student, which contain a main method where program execute begins. Inside the main method, we create an object of a student class name S1. After creating the object, we assign a value to the attribute. For example, the student ID is set to 101 and the student name is set to Alice. That is, finally we print the value using the system do not dot println system. When the program runs, it displays the student ID and student name. This example clearly showed how the class defines the structure and how an object stores actual data. Thank you.